I was
Certainly.
wondering there for a second.
Yeah, no, right. Yeah.
Tony, what's up? You drinking that good coffee?
I'm out of the coffee business. I'm drinking. My go-to coffee now is I have a Bialetti Italian espresso maker,
Oh, I thought that was her
and
first name.
yeah, uh-huh. And I
Did you get Mike Stonebreaker on the phone, please?
I drink a little Cuban coffee out of my Italian
Machine.
There you go.
coffee maker.
There
That's
you go.
hilarious.
So Timmy, you were on it last year,
Yeah.
it's ever evolving. We're trying to get better. This is none of us, went to school for this, but we have been around it for
Dude, I do so many podcasts now. It's ridiculous.
so
You got a fancy setup there, Timmy.
Yeah, isn't that nice? I got
This-
my Beatles
I like that.
over there.
Wes, you really have stepped up your game with that.
How
first
about
one.
that, huh?
So
Yeah.
but so we just try to have a conversation. We'll go over
All
some
right.
topics. So
All right.
all right, Irish Nation, welcome to week 5. Recap of the Notre Dame Louisville game of Under the Golden Dome with your hosts Wes Pritchett, Michael Stonebreaker, Frank Stams, 3 linebackers that played way back when on the '88 national championship team. We talk about Notre Dame football, past and present, our experiences, our stories from back then, and if at all they are applicable to today's game, especially the Irish football team, and how we see it, and are there any lessons to be learned, and how we see the game. And our very special guest under the Golden Dome with us this week is Tim Priester, longtime friend of all of ours, and covered that '88 team for back then. I think, may I say the name?
Oh, yeah, Blue and Gold Illustrated back
Blue-
then. Yeah,
Blue and
Irish
Gold
Illustrated now. Yeah.
Now Irish Illustrated now, and I
Yeah.
sat with Dan Ernst.
Mhm.
Did he tell you?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, so Dan Ernst, please let everybody know who Dan Ernst. Well, first of all, welcome, Tim. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Dan. Dan's my business partner with Irish Illustrated. Within the last year, I've been at Irish Illustrated since 2005. A couple guys that I worked with, Jack Freeman and Pete Sampson, while I was with Blue and Gold Illustrated. Started Irish Illustrated online, and a couple years later, I joined them, and I've been working at home since 2005, and I love that part of it. And so yeah, I've been with this company, or have been owner of this company for 19 years, and we're online. A lot more competition, a lot more competition in the business now than back in the day when I was covering you guys when it was Blue and Gold Illustrated and the South Bend Tribune, and that was it. Everybody and their brothers got a Twitter account or some kind of account out there that so the coverage kind of all runs together. But irishillustrated.com, we are part of 24/7 Sports, and we are the largest and a really good outlet covering Notre Dame football. I was going
So
to
when
brag
you
too much.
say, I have a question, because 24/7 obviously covers all the high school kids,
Mhm.
and they have, I guess, concentrations at each college. How are you guys affiliated? Do they own Are you partners? Or do they
Yeah,
own you? Or
No,
how
we're
does that-
independent. Yeah, we're independent contractors, and they hire us. They hire people
so
to.
you're like their inside voice for Notre Dame.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And 24/7 Sports is part of CBS, and so technically we get paid by CBS, which is a great play, a great
Well,
outlet to be affiliated with.
Well, in my humble opinion, no one knows Notre Dame football more than you, Tim. You've been doing it for what now? How many years? 45?
43.
43.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's outstanding.
Shits, you look like you're 43.
Yeah.
You do look good.
I think you look great.
And
I appreciate that.
I had a chance to meet your wife, Lynn, right?
Lori.
Lori, sorry. So, hey, for me, that's a success.
That's
Got
pretty good. They both start with L.
That's right. Right. So
Lori,
I had a chance to meet her. What a nice gal. So
she's
anyway,
something.
you mentioned the competition now within, your media business, the media world for Notre Dame football and and sports in general. And we were talking about, why, Notre Dame and it hasn't, people ask us all the time, why has it been 40 years, almost 40 years since the last national championship? And it's interesting. I come to the conclusion it's the same thing. I mean, the competition is so much greater now than what it looked like the landscape in '84 when I came to the university. I think it was when Wes and I came to the university. I think it was '86 when Stoney came to the university. I mean, it just, with the explosion of organized youth sports and, the coaching involved, the money that's surrounded,
Facilities, the knowledge.
right? The
The power of
nutrition.
the SEC.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I'm talking about, the kids growing up, the nutrition involved.
Oh
And
yeah.
it looks like there's so many more athletes.
Develop.
Notre Dame gets the athletes, but there's other schools that they're getting the athletes too.
It's harder than ever. I mean, it's harder than when you guys were playing. It just is. Back in your day, Notre Dame dominated the Catholic high schools. That's not the case now. I mean, Notre Dame could draw upon the Chicago area Catholic schools. They rarely get anybody from those schools, and it's just, with the conferences growing, the power of the SEC now, and Notre Dame continues to, things have loosened up a little bit with their standards, but they haven't changed as far as the academic expectations. Once you get to Notre Dame, the best of it is for the guys that are grad transfers or graduate student guys that can pretty much just be, if they choose, they can just be football players that last year at Notre Dame.
That's
Dude, I'm
on earth right there.
What do you
I'm-
mean? We chose. That's what we chose.
I mean, I'm telling you, those guys can come in and they can be football players. But look, this is what I've always said about Notre Dame. Like, if you want to play in the NFL, and I'm talking about present day now. If you want to play in the NFL, you're going to choose the path of least resistance, and Notre Dame is not the path of least resistance. I mean,
You mean for that kid coming out of high school?
right? Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
he's got
going
he's
4
got
years.
he's
Right,
got
right.
you still truly
Yeah,
have to be a
right.
student athlete at Notre Dame, and
No,
again,
no. Hey, listen. So I got to inject because we like to, tell our stories too. Under the Golden Dome. And so, speaking of that, I'm a fifth year at Notre Dame, and that I needed. I think it was. I want to say I needed 15 hours to graduate. So I take 12 and I was, real soft in the spring. I had three credit hours or one class really in the spring. So 4 classes in the fall, one class in the spring.
mhm.
And I thought to myself, I don't know what came over me, but I thought to myself mid season, I said, why am I if I'm going to be here in the spring semester, why am I breaking my neck? And not that I was breaking my neck with 12 credit hours, but why am I breaking my neck with 4 classes when I could take 3 classes and 2 in the spring and still graduate? So I dropped a class, took it down to 9 hours. Well, it was probably within 6 hours that I got a call from Coach Holtz's office that said, Coach Holtz Jan Blasey wants to
John Chan, yeah.
right. Coach wants to see you immediately. And I'm like, oh shit, what did I do? And I go over there and it was freaking murderer's row, man. Lou was at his desk. George Kelly was in there. And then of course, Mike DeChico was in there sitting on the couch. And I'm like, shit. And Mike DeChico, for those listening, it was our academic, he was the
Advisor. He was academic advisor.
academic advisor. He was our czar. He was the guy that we answered to when it came for all the students. He was the fencing coach. All the students had to answer to him as far as your academics. George Kelly was a longtime Notre Dame linebacker coach, and he was serving as an administrative assistant to Lou at the time. And man, DeChico just start laying into me. And I mean, he used language that a truck driver would blush on. And he started laying into me about, oh, you think you're a real smart guy, don't you? Because what I'd forgotten is that you need to take 12 credit hours
12,
to
yeah.
be eligible. And
Yeah,
so
I don't understand how they're going around that now, though. How do they sidestep
let
all
me
that
finish
stuff
my
with them?
story.
Well, I didn't think you were going to do it
Yeah.
on this podcast. I'm not
Well,
sure. Get to the point.
They said, listen, if you don't go get 3 credit hours, smart guy, real lickety split by tomorrow, you're not going to Pittsburgh. And they were dead serious. So my fail safe was to go over to St. Mary's. I went over to St. Mary's and picked up 3 one-hour credit classes, and problem solved. Made my 12 hours, and
Nice.
I stayed eligible. But
So Wes, how do they do it today? I can't say that I know the procedure quite
I
as
don't
well.
think they have one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
It
know
doesn't
that
even
there's
seem like
that-
anybody cares. I mean, it's
I
just
don't know.
crazy.
I don't know that there's that 12-hour stipulation now. There may be. Again, what undergrad? It's undergrad.
Well,
where there's
I have a question for you, because I mean, even my kids can't answer this question. So you have, when all the transfer portal stuff started, Notre Dame, like when Marcus's first year in spring, when he brought all the players back, the kid safety that transferred from Northwestern sat at my table. I can't remember his name. We sat down and talked about it. And I said, how many credits did you lose when you came over to Notre Dame? He was saying if he hadn't had an extra year and COVID and all that, he probably wouldn't have been eligible because Notre Dame didn't accept all of his credits. And he was an undergrad kid, right?
Yeah.
So the question is, forget about Notre Dame for a minute. All these other schools, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, whoever, Ole Miss, Clemson, that take, or actually not Clemson, but that are taking the transfer kids undergrad, or do they all just have an agreement that all the credits transfer? And does the NCAA even have a minimum amount of hours per year now, like they used to have what Frank was talking about? Remember, you had to have 30 hours to be a sophomore.
Yeah,
You had to have 45 hours, whatever it was, to be a junior. Do those
I'm
rules
not.
apply anymore?
I'm not sure that the NCAA. I don't know what does the NCAA have control over these days. I'm really not sure. I mean, I gotta be completely honest with you. I'm not all up on all of that, but I know, again, I keep coming back to the SEC, but let's be real here, man. Come on, those dudes are majoring in football
Yeah.
from day one, and I'm not. I think that certainly if you want to be a true student athlete, you can generally choose to do that, but football is going to come first for them. And the league has grown so large now. How many SEC teams are in the top 10? Like 6?
yeah, no,
Now-
Timmy, we like it, man. We like it raw and unfiltered on this show. We have no allegiance to anybody other than really Notre Dame. I mean, so we're going to be, on the show, we like to say we're the board of directors for Marcus Freeman, and we'll let him know. We'll let him know. We'll give it to him straight, because the emperor has to wear clothes, in my opinion. But yeah, no, you're right, man. It's like you said, football 101.
It's hard. I recently talked to the local Notre Dame club of St. Jovelli, and the last question that was asked to me was, will Notre Dame ever really be able to compete with Alabama and Georgia?
I
and
think
Ohio
they
State
can.
and
I
them?
think they can.
Let's ask Wes. He just saw 2 of the heavyweights going against each other. You think Notre Dame can go toe to toe with one of those 2 schools?
I do not.
I don't.
It's not
I
even.
do, and I'll tell you why I do. They need to get a top quarterback.
Who?
Well, they don't-
Alabama or Georgia?
Notre Dame.
They don't have that right now.
I
They
mean,
have
you're
an
saying
average
the
quarterback.
team
like-
right now, or you're saying, well, no. Here's a question: do you think do I think Notre Dame could beat Alabama or Georgia now? No. Do I think they
I
could
don't either.
potentially in the future? I mean, it's possible. I'll tell you this: Marcus is getting more high quality players in than Brian Kelly did. He
Agreed.
is in the hunt and in the conversation with 5-star kids and top rated kids. And you got to have the Jimmies and Joes. Now, the one thing that I, growing up in the South and now having kids going through the process of getting recruited. I mean, I used to say this when I was at Notre Dame, and I don't think people believed me. But like my alumni buddies that go to Georgia, I'd say something about, well, your players don't graduate. They would look at me like, what? Who cares? Nobody cares. We want to win football games. We have all of our resources are directed to win football games. That's it. If the student athlete thing becomes a part of it, that's wonderful. Georgia graduates 45% of their players or something crazy like that. They don't care. They don't.
There's no doubt that Marcus
They don't
Freeman.
care. Like
Oh,
people
they
think I'm
don't.
just saying that and being like, oh, that's
Right.
just West. No, that's really what they believe.
No, they don't care. I think
They don't
that's-
care.
that-
I mean,
that's
let's
pretty-
be honest.
That's pretty common knowledge now. And you're right that Marcus Freeman can attract more 5-star prospects, but Notre Dame may get 1 or 2 in a year, and Georgia gets 9 and Alabama gets 11. So what are we talking about here?
No, I'm with you. The depth at those schools is greater. But Tim, shit. I don't know if we were the most talented team in the nation the year that we won the national
Your
championship.
defense was.
Well, I mean, I
Oh, we
thought,
weren't until 1986 when our freshman class came in and helped you guys out.
There he is. Get
You
Stoney
guys-
up here. Stoney.
You guys owe Stoney a big thanks, man.
yeah, no, that's
Yeah, we
every
did.
day I
Thanks,
wake up,
Stone.
I send him a thank you. Yeah, I text him, thank
You guys are talking about this 5th year. I had a 5th year when I was at Notre Dame, and I didn't go to any of my classes, and people, I had already graduated, but people frowned upon it and looked sideways at me like I was doing something possibly illegal, but I was a trendsetter.
Well, why
And,
should your fifth
it
year
just-
be any different than your
Stoney,
first year?
Stoney, on your 5th year at Notre Dame, were you old enough for Social Security?
Yes. And I had a
Okay.
cane at that point. I was walking with a cane. But yeah, I did all that stuff already. That's not new to me. I'm a trendsetter.
Yeah, well, so that's my point. As far as Notre Dame needs a magical. They need. That season we look back at it, and Tim, I think you and I were talking about it the other day. I know John Palermo was there at the.
Oh
whole,
God, it was so good to see him. I
Yeah,
haven't
it was-
seen him.
Does he still have pretty eyelashes?
Nah, his looks have faded, man. He's not the pretty eyelashed defensive line coach that he once was. Now I say that in jest. Now I don't mean it. He looks good. I mean, I don't know how old John is, but he's
Well, he's at least 25 years older than us.
he doesn't
right?
have that. No,
He's
yeah,
probably
he doesn't
30
have that
years older, Frank.
boyish charm that he had 35 years ago. That's my only point.
All
But
right, I have a question for that Tim.
make the
Priester.
announcement. Well, who are we? What's the show?
We're sponsored. What's the name of our show?
Under the Golden
is-
Dome,
Under the
brother.
Golden
Under the
Dome.
Golden Dome. I've got a question for that Tim Priester. So you've been covering this sports for a number of years, right? And so we look at it and we look at our success in 88 and 89 and, the lose first couple of years when we were all there and we were pretty competitive and, one game a year, probably away from winning a couple national championships. And so as you've covered Notre Dame and seen the college sports football grow over the years, what do you see as the difference? Is it just straight up athletic ability of other schools versus Notre Dame's limits to getting the academic and athletic players in there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to what I said about path of least resistance, the 5-star guys, the guys that are down in SEC country that Wes is referring to, where the only thing that matters is winning football. They ain't coming to Notre Dame, dude. They aren't.
No,
They aren't
they're
thinking
not.
about it. They're not thinking about a degree from Notre Dame. They don't give a damn about that. They care about going to, there's six
You
or
think
seven or eight.
you
SEC
think the
schools.
academic requirements or a standard or whatever you want to call it, the academics, you think it serves as a deterrent for some of these guys?
100%.
I'm asking
120
Tim, our guest.
100%.
130%.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They
Yeah,
don't
no,
care.
I think I knew the answer to that question. I
No,
wanted
they
to hear
don't.
what your answer was.
No, they don't, because their path is, they're on a mindset and a path to the NFL, man. They're not, they're not.
I know that athlete. I played with it in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, they're not
oh.
thinking about
I mean, I think that's
a
what makes that's
degree.
what listen, that's what separates Notre Dame from all these other schools.
Yeah,
As
and I
much
don't
as
want Notre Dame to ever
guys
be
at
any
Notre Dame
different, but
can't understand that the fans don't care if the players graduate, the people in the SEC can't understand that we really care about the student athlete.
I know.
They think we're just saying that.
It's
And we don't think that they don't understand that people actually chose Notre Dame for the school.
It's degraded that badly, huh?
100%. They don't understand that I chose Notre Dame for the school, because my dad said to me, you want to go somewhere, if you get hurt the first day, you're glad that you graduated from there.
Yeah. So I've heard about this and I've seen it. I mean, and I've witnessed it. These kids, I go to talk to groups just like Wes, you do, Mike, you do, Tim, you do. And the first question we'll get is, I want to go to the NFL, or, how much money do you make in the NFL? That I get the attitude, but I just didn't think it was so dominant, I guess.
Well, yeah, the other part of it is NIL. I mean, guys are getting, you guys didn't, I mean, you just wanted a stipend just to get through these,
What do you mean? I was lucky to have a steak dinner.
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame has done a really good job with their NIL program, and they're way more competitive now. But at the end of the day, they're still not going to be able to compete NIL wise with the Alabamas and Ohio States, and
They don't want no, and
Georgia.
that's so they're not going to be able to compete, or they choose not to.
Well, they choose not to, because there's got to be a limit, right? Who's running the who's running the show? The players,
I don't know.
the 19-year-olds?
That's what Notre Dame's that's what Notre Dame's saying. There's got to be a limit, but other schools are saying no, there doesn't have to be a limit.
What can I say, man?
No, you're right. I'm not disagreeing with you, Tim. I'm just saying that no, you're right. I mean, I personally, I think, yeah. I mean, I don't know whether there's got to be a limit or not. I don't know. I just know that that's the arena now that the schools are playing in, and Notre Dame is choosing not to go headlong into it. And
no, I mean, it's verbiage here that we're trying to get synced up here. I mean, Notre Dame knows that they have to play the NIL game, and that's why I say they've really upped the ante. But you're asking for trouble when you're paying 18-year-olds millions of dollars, and then you're at their mercy of, if they're not playing, they can just pick up. Well, they don't even have to. You can leave now, man. You can go. Amari Huggins Bruce, number 24 that played for Louisville this past weekend. He left. He was at Louisville. He left, played spring football at South Carolina, started fall camp at South Carolina. He played against Notre Dame back at Louisville the other day.
I agree with you.
There are no rules.
It's the wild, wild west. I agree with you, but let me tell you a quick story. I'm coming out of St. Vincent St. Mary in Akron, Ohio, the school that you know very well, because you knew some of my classmates and still do. So I'm getting recruited, just like all you guys are getting recruited. And then Indiana Sam Weish calls me from Indiana late in the recruiting process, and he had just gotten the job at Indiana. I think he took over for the guy that's on ESPN, maybe Corso. And he said, hey, you want to come down to Indiana? And I said, well, let me think about it. I called him a week later. I said, sorry, coach. It's, I've got my 5 visits through. Indiana's not on my radar screen. And I saw 2 months later, he left Indiana and went to, and coached the Cincinnati Bengals. He never coached it down at Indiana. So my perspective, and yours is, and you know this as well. I mean, it's happening now amongst the players, but it's been happening amongst the coaches forever.
Well, I mean, it was to a lesser degree than now with NIL. But I mean, I don't know. You guys did. I don't know how much. I don't know how much under the table money was at Notre Dame, but that was
Zero.
again, always.
I think I got a couple of nickels.
Did you?
I got
but
nothing.
but that was
I got $0.00.
Notre
Yeah.
Dame.
We used
We
to
got
say,
a couple
listen,
of free. We got some free
they
drinks
would-
in a bar.
they would give us $40
Once.
to take and you probably know this, Tim. They'd give us $40 to host the recruits when they came in as high school seniors.
Right.
We used to take them over to the linebacker on Friday and Saturday night, like in January, and the only person who was in there was the town drunk. He was sleeping in his beer. We could buy him beers all night long for $1 and shots for $1.25. And then and if we were able to keep $25, it was a huge score.
100%.
But like seriously, you guys knew guys in the NFL. They got paid when they were in college.
Sure. Those guys
Right?
from
I mean-
SMU, and when we were, and you know this, those guys from SMU were making a shitload of money. I ended up getting to know Jerry Ball a little bit. And I said, man, was it true you got the shoebox full of money, of cash? He said, absolutely, it was true.
Yeah, they were
Oh,
doing that at the other schools too. Remember when Herschel went to Georgia and he had that Firebird right away? I mean, it was, come on.
So it
The-
is what it is. And even though Notre Dame definitely is competitive NIL wise, but it's all relative. All that means is that some of these other
They
schools.
can
that
I
give
mean,
good-
did you
They
Right,
can
just
get
take it-
good, smart players still.
But did
It
you-
doesn't
did you-
change who they can get.
That's right.
Yeah.
Did you see the picture? My kids showed it to me of this at the stadium at Texas where they had 8 Lamborghinis in a row.
Wow.
8. Frank, think about that.
That's hard.
8
That's hard.
Lamborghinis. 8 different players came to practice in Lamborghinis.
You don't see that in a pro. You don't see that.
No.
in the NFL.
No, you don't see 2.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so that's where Notre Dame is. This current Notre Dame team has not lived up to expectations. Obviously, they're 4
Well,
and
let's
1.
talk
I
about
mean,
that. Hold on. Let me get
All right.
in here. You're under the Golden Dome with Wes Pritchett, Michael Stonebreaker, Frank Stamps, 3 linebackers, played back on the 88 national championship team, talking Notre Dame football past and present. Our special guest this afternoon is longtime sports writer, Notre Dame, covered Notre Dame for 43 years. And
Graduate. I got the same degree you guys do.
yeah, that's right. Thank you, Tim. Yeah, right. Yeah, University of Notre Dame graduate, baseball player, right?
Yes, sir.
And just sports writer extraordinary. Yeah, I know he wants to talk a little bit about I think, the book that you're working on. I don't know how much you want to talk about that or even, let the cat out of the bag, but you're welcome to talk at length about it if you want. But currently with Irish Illustrated, we're talking Notre Dame football. So Notre Dame. All right. So after 5 games now? I mean, it's a fair evaluation. Where are they?
Well, they're 4 and 1. They deserve to be 4 and 1. They don't deserve to be 5 and 0 because they played so poorly against Northern Illinois, but they're 1 hooked field goal away from, or one running play from moving the chains one more time, and they could actually be 5 and 0. But the expectations going into this year, we said it at Irish Illustrated and
Would they
others.
start out at 5 in the preseason polls?
They started
Yep.
out at 7. They got up to 5 after they beat Texas A&M,
Okay,
which was
thank you.
which was a really I'd been there before. Notre Dame had played there before, but that was a really cool experience again to go down there, and the atmosphere was awesome. But I mean, they just haven't lived up to expectations. Part of it is there've been some injuries on the offensive line. Now there's some injuries on the defensive line, but it's the offense. The defense. Al Golden's a great defensive coordinator. He came in 2022, came in with Marcus Freeman when Marcus was named head coach. they struggled in the red zone that first year, but they were still pretty good otherwise. And then last year, they became a real dominant defense. And so this has been Marcus is 23 and 8. 23 and 8, I think his record is since he got there. But I mean, it's been defense that has carried them up to this point. And I wouldn't say that this defense is as good as last year's was right now because they're suffering too many injuries. But offensively, Sam Hartman did not live up to the expectations last year when they lost at Louisville and lost at Clemson. And then they brought in Riley Leonard, a dual threat, but his main threat has been with his feet. He hasn't been very good throwing the football. Mike Denbrock is back for a third tour of duty as offensive coordinator. But I think he feels like his hands are a little bit tied based upon what they can do offensively and what Leonard's capable of doing in the passing game. They've really increased the talent at wide receiver compared to the last 2 years, but they don't have the trigger man that can take full advantage of that. They've got 2 really good, outstanding running backs. And Riley Leonard is he's a dynamic runner. And so that part of their game is really, really good. But you guys know, Wes, you were at a Georgia-Alabama shootout the other night. The Notre Dame couldn't get involved and win a shootout against either one of those teams. So it's been a little bit disappointing. They haven't lived up to expectations. They're 4-1. Like I said, they deserve to be 4-1. They're still in the playoff picture with the playoff expanding to 12 games. But if they don't get their passing game going, not that their schedule is rigorous on paper. You've got, Stanford that's still trying to dig out from recent years.
They better watch out for the Yellow Jackets in Atlanta.
The Yellow Jackets have a whole bunch of offense, which Notre Dame or Georgia Tech's defense is vulnerable. But if Notre Dame's offense can't score with Georgia Tech, that's a bit of a problem. USC to end the season, Florida State. Holy cow, they're really, really struggling. Both the academies are undefeated. They're now both in the American Conference, and they're undefeated, and they're pretty darn good.
Well, they're throwing the ball.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Exactly.
I saw that. That was crazy.
Yeah. So, man, there are no assumptions here. There are no guaranteed wins. And then naturally Northern Illinois, who Notre Dame needed to do, keep winning, go win 11 games, make the playoffs, maybe representing, the group of 5. Well, they lose to Buffalo, and then they had a shot at NC State this past week and they lost by a touchdown. So, 4-1, still in the running, but by the way, not lived up to expectations.
NIU lost to Buffalo, and then Buffalo got drummed by somebody.
Connecticut.
Yeah, they got killed by Connecticut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
there was a wise man one day that told me way back when, his name was Steve Stonebreaker. He says, you don't really want to judge past performance on it's past performance. It's like the stock market. Past performance is no indication of future performance or something like that. So, and that was a wonderful breakdown, Timmy, of where Notre Dame is. That's I agree with just about all of it. And taking the 30,000-foot view, what I like about Notre Dame, and we've been critical of Notre Dame, and and I have no problem. Again, this is Marcus Freeman's board of directors here. Because we actually, we have won a national championship, and we saw, and like under early on, we saw the dark days. We saw where that program came from the ashes.
Yeah, I started covering Notre Dame in '82. There
you go.
The Jerry Faust experience.
Right. Exactly. Kind of like there's the title, The Grateful Dead, brother.
That'll be the Jerry Faust experience will be in the book for sure, because holy cow.
Instead of Under the Golden Dome, we should have just made this The Grateful Dead.
I mean, the guys that played, and you're one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, the guys that played for Faust and then Holtz.
Dude, I was crying my freshman year. I was so.
There could not be a wider disparity between two people.
No. No.
and Styles. There could not.
Impossible.
There could on the spectrum of coaches in the history of the planet.
Impossible.
Those are
Hey,
two guys on the two ends.
I'm embarrassed to say this, but Wes and I hosted this kid, and we told him he needs to think long and hard. And we didn't really say it like this, but we told him he needs to think long and hard about coming to Notre Dame.
He did
And
not come to
Mel
Notre Dame.
Mel Moore called us into his office the next day. He was a running backs coach, and he said, "Hey, what did you?" Because this kid, he
said,
like,
what
I'm
did
not
you,
going.
what did
Yeah.
you tell that kid?
Yeah, he said, "What did you say to that kid?" And we're like, we just looked at each other with like slobber all over our face and, food on our face. And we said, huh? What? Well, we
I
didn't.
mean, like, to be fair, Jerry was well intentioned, but so this is my, so
I
it's-
like Jerry, man. It's
Yeah,
not
no,
about,
but it's
not
my
about
first
whether
time.
they're good guys or bad guys. It's just the state of football. And, and right now, to me, what I see, they should never lose to Northern Illinois. But you know what? I went to the game, and bam, they take that opening shot right there, and Louisville scores right away. And I'll tell you, the way they came back in the first quarter, they scored 21 unanswered. The defense shut them out, but and that was impressive. Went right down the field. I was looking at it, 12 plays, 15 plays, 76, 86 yards, ground out 6 minutes of the clock and scored a touchdown. And that was awesome. But on the flip side, and this is where the inconsistency is a problem, and I know this is what you see, is at the end of the game, when they had the ball with 5 minutes to go, Louisville didn't have any timeouts. They were up by a touchdown. They needed that same drive to finish the game off and then kneel the ball down about the 10-yard line and say, thanks for coming, Louisville. They weren't able to do it. They gave the ball back to Louisville, and Louisville had a chance to frickin' tie the score.
Right. And I
That's
think
the problem.
the reason for that, number one, they're very young on the offensive line. Number two, that offensive line, their two best linemen, center Ashton Craig and right guard Billy Schrouth, both were injured against Purdue. Craig's out for the year. Schrouth is hopefully come back for Stanford after the break. So they were young to begin with. Now they were even younger, although they put a couple guys that started last year that actually were beaten out. They can't just grind it out, Frank. I mean, they just can't, and they
right.
can't.
Yeah, I mean,
can't.
Tim, can you run down exactly who all's been hurt on the offensive line that would be starting right now?
Well, it was Craig and Schrouth that were injured against Purdue, and then Charles Jogusa, who was a guy that was going to start at left tackle. He suffered a shoulder pec tear right when camp opened. So I mean, they started.
So that's three starters out,
right, and they started a redshirt sophomore at left guard who hadn't played. They started a true freshman, Anthony Knapp, who did a hell of a job against Nick Scorton, who's a beast for Texas A&M. But I mean, they are just, how,
no, you bring up a
you
great
know how
point,
offensive lines are. It takes so long to
right,
develop them.
Exactly. And I want you to, talk about that, but I wanted to make this point because in the A&M game, they were able to finish the game in the fourth quarter.
They were.
And
Yeah,
now,
they were.
and so, and I, they had a few injuries on the offensive line that was concerning, I see, coming out of Purdue, and then that defensive lineman too. But you're right. Now these additional injuries now becomes the point where it is, I mean, I thought Notre Dame was deep enough that they could recover from that, but now it's to a point where it is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, they're deeper, and this is to the point about Marcus Freeman's recruiting. They are deeper than they were generally under Brian Kelly. He has done a good job of recruiting, up to a point. Again, when you start comparing to other people, other programs across the country. I do want to make this point before we don't get to it. The secondary is tremendous.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A tremendous group. That is the strength of the team. And we thought D-line was the strength of the team too, but opponents have run on them a little bit. Part of that is Al Golden's philosophy. He'd rather give up some yards on the ground than get beaten through the air, and it's worked really well for him, but there are times where they get gashed a little bit. And then now, they're young at linebacker. Man, I got a bunch of good young linebackers. They look like
I think our skill positions look really good. Here's one thing that I have to say, and I know I don't know that we've really talked about it on this show. but being at the being close to the field, being watching the Alabama Georgia game, and I've always felt like the top SEC teams had an advantage on the defensive line. When you see the numbers and the size of their defensive linemen, it is unbelievable. I mean, we have dudes and we have big guys, but do we have six?
We do.
Do we?
And I'm going to say that we don't have them every year, and we don't have them like they have them in SEC. But you guys remember Ross Browner?
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
Okay.
No, you're right. But I'm just saying.
So
like
that's my point is we have them. And that's what I'm saying. Getting back to the national championship, there's going to come a team where they're going to put it all together, and they're going to win that national championship. But the biggest part of that equation with Browner was Montana, that team, and that's what we need. We need a Montana.
They do need a great quarterback. You need a difference maker quarterback. When you guys were playing, there were multiple teams that won national titles with game managers. Surrounded by great defense and great offensive line, and Holtz could run the ball. You can't just line up and the game's different. You can't just line up and do what you guys used to do on the offensive side of the ball. It's just it's just different. And when Notre Dame played Texas A&M, I went down on the field before the game and I stood by Texas A&M's defensive line warming up, and Notre Dame got the best on that day. They put together a drive in the fourth quarter and were able to win the game. But you don't have bodies like that. I remember, I was on the field before I was on the field before the 2012 national championship game against Alabama, and I was actually kind of encouraged because Georgia wasn't the Georgia now, but they were good. But I thought that they had given Alabama a pretty good game. I thought, well, Notre Dame's,
Wes and I were at that game.
Okay, they can hang in there on this. And then I'm on the field before the game. Yeah, I'm on the field before the game, and out comes the Alabama team, and I'm like, this ain't gonna happen, man. This ain't gonna work.
That may be the best team.
What they're doing is they're platooning those big defensive linemen in three at a time, and they're just
in the fourth quarter, those guys are fresh. It's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
No, Stoney, you're absolutely right, man. I mean, I defensive line, and Notre Dame's always been able to put forth, a bunch of strong offensive lines, but D line, Frank, you're right. Notre Dame gets some of those guys. There's no doubt about that. They've had some pass rushers here lately. Foskey and Okwara and
defensive linemen.
Mike Gann was really good, but dude, the depth, the size and the depth of that talent. Again, like I said, Notre Dame will get 1 or 2 5-stars. Alabama will get 7, and Georgia will get 8.
Well, all right. And
that's
Georgia team that won.
That's per year.
The Georgia team that won 2 years ago. The Georgia team that won 2 years ago. Their defense, that may be the best defense that there's ever been. I think all 11 guys got drafted in the first 2 rounds. You know that.
Yeah.
And in like the last 4 years, Alabama's had a first-round draft pick at like every position.
Yeah.
It's some crazy stat.
And when Notre Dame went undefeated during the regular season in 2018, and then they played Clemson in the playoffs, Clemson had, 3 defensive linemen drafted in the first round.
Yeah. Yeah, they were stacked.
Yeah. So it's hard, but look, I come maybe from a little different perspective here because you guys were players and I'm just holding a clipboard over there watching you smoking cigars.
Hey, Wes, tell them about that time you showed up in the huddle with Tim Priesters with Tim's cigar in your mouth.
Hey, Wes, Palermo was talking about it.
First of all, it is true. And as you know, Timmy always smokes cigars. So, I looked at him, I said, give me that cigar. He handed it to me. I stuck it in my mouth and I ran out so Alvarez couldn't see me. So I started puffing it with my back to Alvarez. And he said, all of a sudden he starts seeing the smoke come out of my helmet.
Dude, I'm on my knees.
I had the red glow right at him and blew a big billow of smoke.
I'm on my knees in the huddle and the front line there, waiting for you to call a play, and I'm getting pissed because you're not calling a play. And all of a sudden I smell a cigar and I look up, there's a freaking cigar in your mouth. I couldn't.
And I talked to,
I got a lot of miles out of that.
I did, yeah, I have too. And I talked to, I spent some time on the phone with Alvarez talking about, he was sensational. He was a sensational interview for,
Now that guy, by the way, we can do a whole show on him.
man, I tell you, I understand why. I didn't know him obviously like you guys
He's a
did.
good dude.
Yeah, we
He's
spent about an
amazing.
hour on the phone.
You know,
He's
he
intuitive.
died last year.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, no, I sent him the article, and the guy said,
Oh yeah.
said that he died. I said, "Hey, is it true that you're dead?" And he sent it back. He said, "No, that's been exaggerated." I said, "Okay, that's good to know."
He was, no, he was really,
He's got
really
a great
helpful.
sense of humor. He was
Yeah, he really does.
he was
He-
the perfect leader that
Absolutely. And talking to him, I like, how'd you put up with those guys? And but he loved you. And, he knew, that, you don't cookie cutter coach.
Right.
You coach the players that you have, and you guys were unique. You guys were a unique group of individuals, you three in
Well, I
particular.
tell you, the greatest thing about that though is that Lou had enough respect for Barry that he didn't micromanage the defense.
Yeah, that's cool.
And he let us. And Barry was the kind of coach that would let us, like he gave us enough rope so that we could be ourselves and play free, but still be controlled. Like
Right.
I think you can play. I think you can be like too beaten down and not be able to play. Like to me, it felt like the Alabama players were playing free a lot more than they used to,
Yeah.
even under Saban.
Well, let me
Right.
guarantee you that not every defensive coordinator under Lou Holtz was afforded the
Right.
opportunity that you're
Right.
talking about with Barry Alvarez. He was
Right.
not. He didn't.
Well, one of our things on defense was to practice well. We can bullshit all we want, but to practice well in order to keep Lou down at the offensive side
Yeah.
of practice. So when he watches film, he's watching us executing
Right.
properly,
Right.
and then
Yep.
you can have fun. But we always practice consistently and practice hard.
Yeah,
And-
but
and-
Barry
and
would
Barry-
get on us, and he would
Yeah.
actually bring that up. He
Right.
goes, "You want the little guy down here? You
right.
better pick it up."
So we played a bad game. I forget who it was. And then Lou, it was early in the season. So coaches have this thing, what they call county fair. I don't know if you guys know what that is. I'm sure you do, but basically it takes you back to training camp, and you've got like each position coach gets to coach a drill, and it's going back into the, again, the training camp drills, and you're just busting your ass for like an hour and 15 minutes doing these county fair drills. And it's something that I hated. It's something the coaches didn't like, but Lou brought it back to get our attention to say, God damn it, you better start playing better. And that's when Barry, and Timmy, you probably know this, Wes was just talking about it, Mike, you know this, is where Barry said, listen, you want more of that shit, then keep playing poorly. And boy, I'll tell you,
That was it.
if that wasn't an incentive enough to keep him down at the other end with that offense, because I used to watch that offense come off the field. We'd come off at the same time, and those guys all looked like they saw a ghost. And and like you said, Wes is smoking a cigar.
We're down having a good old time
Right.
down at the other end.
We're smiling, laughing,
why-
telling jokes.
That's why I hung down by you guys. That's where the good times were. So you had Foge, right? You had Foge first,
Yeah.
Wes and
Yeah.
Michael.
I had Foge.
Did you have Darnell?
No, Foge. I had Foge. Foge was my freshman year.
Foge Fazio
Was-
for
yeah,
everybody.
loose. And I wound up with Gary Darnell.
Darnell, yeah. And that didn't. I don't think that. I don't.
Lou
Lou
wound up
didn't
taking
trust him. Yeah, Lou
Lou
didn't
took
trust
the
him.
defense away from him after
Right.
the second
Yeah.
game when the Miami running back had 285 yards rushing on us. Now, the first day of practice, I'm walking out to practice, and Gary Darnell looks at me and he says, I'm not afraid to start a freshman. As we're walking out to practice, and he's the linebackers coach and the defensive coordinator. And as we're walking out to practice, he tells me, and I look at him, and in my mind, he has no idea what's going on in my mind. But I can't repeat what I was thinking because it was illegal, right? And
I'll sum it up. What a dick.
yeah,
Yeah.
I said, what, I couldn't even understand what he was saying to me. And so, that was his attitude towards the
Towards an All-American.
linebackers.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
yeah, a
and he ca-
returning All-American.
well,
Yeah.
see, he came from the SEC, so he was
He came from the
he was
SEC,
a little
that's
cocky.
shooting
He
the
came from
gap,
Florida.
defense, and it's like that's not going to work up here in Notre Dame against Michigan.
I want to bring something up that Barry and I talked about. Well, and no, Holtz and I talked about. I said to Holtz, why didn't Barry follow you to the head coaching position? And Holtz said, I recommended Barry to follow him. He had gone to Wisconsin and already established himself.
No. Well, I'll tell you the story that, well,
Wait. Let Timmy finish.
Holtz told me that he recommended Notre Dame that Alvarez replace him, and Notre Dame, that would have been, Rosenthal was gone, so that would have been Wadsworth.
Barry told me.
Well, wait a sec. What did Notre Dame say?
Well, obviously,
Why didn't they want Barry?
I mean, I don't know. Well, I don't. They didn't choose him, did they?
No,
I'm going to tell you what Barry told me.
I want to hear it.
He said that Lou had recommended him, and he thought he was going back to Notre Dame, and George Kelly blackballed him. And I don't know why he
yes.
would have had that much press power, but that's what Barry Alvarez told me.
George was in the athletic administration at that point and had been there since, when I met him.
That's what he thought anyway. I shouldn't
Yeah.
probably have said that, but who cares? George is dead.
Well, he does still have family, but anyway, but anyway, yeah, I mean, think about that. Think about Barry Alvarez.
If Barry Alvarez comes back to Notre Dame, we would not have lost. They would have just continued.
Because you would have had.
I'm glad Barry didn't go back to Notre Dame because we wouldn't have been the last national
That's
championship.
exactly right about that. You're right. I mean, if you really see, the thing is,
Barry
we were
did.
young
Barry did
kids.
fine.
We didn't realize how well. Yeah, you're right. We didn't realize what a great. Well, maybe we did realize what a great coach Barry was, but what he did at Wisconsin.
Oh, listen, we
is
should
unheard of.
listen.
Yeah,
We taught Barry everything that
Yeah.
Barry.
Right, he came from Iowa. He didn't know how to
Right.
coach football.
No,
Are you kidding me?
Right.
Like, look, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm making the tackle, and you just make sure those defensive linemen hold the guys up so Frank and Wes and I can run around and make all the tackles. That's how
Coach,
you do
we
it.
got this. Let's try
We got it.
And the Irish, you are listening to Under the Golden Dome with your host, Michael Stonebreaker, Wes Pritchett, Frank Stamps, three linebackers that played back on the 88 Notre Dame last national football championship team, along with our special guest today. Distinguished special guest, Notre Dame graduate, longtime sports writer covering the Irish going back 43 years, starting with Blue and Gold Illustrated, Tim Priester, our dear friend, and a guy that we love to this day. Thank you for being on, Tim. Currently with Irish Illustrated, talking football. So
yeah, irishillustrated.com. I'd recommend it to anybody. We've got an incredible staff. I'm so happy with what we've been able to create with our staff, and it's not like loose emoji and myself writing every single story. The late loose emoji. I don't know if you know that, Wes.
Yeah, I remember that's
he passed.
By the way.
Well, he had a heart attack. I tried to die at Notre Dame Stadium in 2017, but survived it. I was fortunate to be at Notre Dame Stadium, but he was playing tennis. He got in his car, he started his car, and he never made it out of the parking lot. I, on the other hand, went in cardiac arrest on game day, and around Notre Dame Stadium on game day is a pretty good place to be if you're going to go in cardiac arrest.
Wow.
So
I can still see Louis' big smile right now, brother.
Yeah. Louis,
I didn't realize he had a heart attack. I remember you telling me he passed away. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Did they shock you? Did you get the
defibrillator?
That's what
Good
they,
defibrillator?
that's what they tell me. That's what they tell me they did. In fact, they told me that they had to do it twice and that they had to do it again on the way to the hospital. So, third time was a charm
Amazing.
and I survived it and,
God
pretty
bless you.
wild, pretty wild. And we can laugh about those cigars, but I haven't had one since the day that happened to me at Notre
Yeah.
Dame Stadium. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I thought I was invincible when it came to the cigars and found out otherwise. But I feel I'm really, really blessed. Got a great family, got a great wife, son, 3 granddaughters,
Awesome.
and I have the job that I literally
You
wake
got a
up
job that
every morning.
99.9%
Dude,
of the population would love.
they would. I'm not sure that they would love the. I mean,
They don't know. They don't know.
I'm a writer. I love getting up every day and writing. That has never changed. This is my home. It's the University of Notre Dame. That's why I say, I mean, maybe you guys feel differently about this, but I'm coming from a different perspective. I don't want Notre Dame athletics to change. I don't want them to compromise their principles so they can win a national title. I want
No,
them to
we're
do
with
it
you.
the
I'm
right
with
way.
you. Yeah, but I want them to change for the better.
Yeah, and they have. They're trying, but believe me, they're trying to keep up with the Joneses. But
Yeah, no,
once
yeah.
NIL came into play, and once there were no rules with the NCAA, and they cut everybody loose, and guys can go from one team to the next, it's that much harder. Now you have a 12-team playoff, so Notre Dame has to win 4 games to win a national title. Holy cow!
Well, I think,
you,
Tim, what do you think about? I think the transfer portal has been has been worse for college football than NIL.
Well, it's ridiculous that you bring in 3 dozen kids in 1 year. Notre Dame's used it judiciously. They've used it well. They get about 7, 8, 9 guys, and they usually can plug those guys in. And most of the time, they've been productive. Uh, and Marcus Freeman talked about when the guys that transfer in, the first thing he has to do is try to teach them to love Notre Dame because you guys know it's an environment that is one of a kind. It isn't anything like
No, it's not. You're right.
anything like the football factories, and so you can't just say, "Hey, 5-star, come here. We'll give you $1 million. Come play." You got to assimilate to the atmosphere at Notre Dame, and it's just it doesn't
Yeah.
come easily.
Tim, you know Marcus Freeman pretty good, don't you?
I do.
You think you could talk him into like spending maybe 3 or 4 day retreat with Wes and Mike and myself somewhere
What are
where
you going
we
to try to
just
corrupt them, or what do you got?
well,
What are your plans?
no, not corrupt him. I'm sure he's, got his own vices. But just where we could just kind of maybe like do the Vulcan mind transfer of what we know and all our experience and really, I don't know, just some of that share, going into Marcus, because I think what I'm getting at is, I want to see Marcus more seasoned. This is his first head coaching job. It's the hardest coaching job in all of all of college football. I'm sympathetic to his position. And we want the best for them. We really do. We love Notre Dame. I love Notre Dame. And if at times it feels like I'm picking on them, it's only because they're my little brother. But God forbid somebody else pick on them, because the shit hits the fan. I don't want to hear any of that bullshit.
Well,
But
yeah, I can probably get you an audience through the right channels.
no,
But,
no, I was just kidding. But
now you know what,
the point
look,
being is, I just want to see him a little bit. Like, for example, I'm listening to his press conference before we come on to the show, and he made a comment. He said, about minute 8 of the press conference, he said, this is what you learn as a head coach. And you could interpret that a lot of ways, but I'm interpreting that he's he's learned it just now because this is his first head coaching job.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
the head coaching, the guy that had the Holtz, he had those battle scars when he came in, and he knew those lessons. And that's my point. That's all my point is. Is he going to be, does he check all the boxes? Yeah. Is he recruiting? Yeah. Do the kids play for him? I think they do. I think this team's getting better, just like the team last year got better from start to finish. But it's how they start. It's preparing those guys early on is really, that carries you through the season. And I just see him, year after year. And I know it's only been 3 short years, but it seems like he's always playing catch up after the first 3 or 4 games.
And he's done a good job of beating ranked teams. He beat Louisville's a good team. He beat another good team the other day.
Yeah, they're one of 2 teams that have beaten ranked only one of 2 teams in the nation that have beaten top 25 teams. Right.
Yeah, but you lose to Marshall as a 20-point favorite. You lose to Stanford as a 16-point favorite. You lose to Northern Illinois as a 28-point favorite. It's, as a coach, I coached a little high school baseball. Coaching during adversity is easy because everybody's pissed off and everybody wants to win. And, you get angry at your players and they respond. Coaching after success, coaching during prosperity is the most difficult and that's why Holtz was always a prick, because he wasn't going to let you guys let down. I understand that feeling as a high school coach, especially high school teenagers. As soon as you give them a chance to let down, they will. So that's the hardest part. That's what he struggled with most is winning games after coming back from Texas A&M after a big win in the heat and humidity and playing a team. And he said, nobody in the building thought we could lose. Maybe that's the problem. That was one of the great things about Lou Holtz. When the week started, you guys know better than anybody. When the week started,
we were terrible.
Right. And
I know you use that term. That's a term of endearment because listen, being a prick on the football field, that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not a popularity contest.
No, and Marcus can be that. Holtz was the king of it, man. He was the best. He was the best when it came to being pricked on the field, right?
100%.
Yeah.
That's what we've talked about it on the show, is raising the expectation for everybody.
Yeah.
And then getting to the point where the players are actually enforcing that level, of what they expect from everybody to do as far as preparation.
Yeah. And I really thought Marcus was ready to, I expect him to be 5-0. I realized that Texas A&M game could go either way. You can accept that a little bit. You can accept a loss to A&M and then you beat Northern Illinois. It was great, but then it was great to beat A&M and they were not prepared to play quality football against Northern Illinois. So
no, they weren't.
There's a learning curve there, and okay. Jerry Faust was a first-time head coach on a collegiate level, and he wasn't ready, and Bob Davie wasn't ready,
right?
And Charlie Weiss, thought he was ready, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
We all want it for Marcus. I mean, I think you guys as football alums,
absolutely,
all want it badly for Marcus Freeman.
100%.
No, he's a good dude. And, I know when I listen to him talk, everything's, he's in the right space as far as wanting what's best for those kids. And to me, that's what it's all about, wanting your team, wanting your guys to succeed. And I know he's in it for all the right reasons. So, I think Notre Dame can make the playoff. I think Notre Dame will get better. I think they can win out.
We got to beat Southern Cal.
Yeah, my concern is that they're just not going to get good enough quarterback play to win.
Well, exactly. And I'm a little worried. You mentioned to me running quarterback, he's got 2 more carries than
what happens if he gets hurt?
Than Love does.
Well, he's playing hurt right now. He's got a left labrum injury that he's playing with.
So, to me, when your quarterback is your leading rusher, that's a problem. I think
Jeremiah
identify.
Love's, Jeremiah Love's right there with him. I
He's
mean,
right
you're
there
right.
with them, but
Yeah.
they need to identify with a strong run game, and that starts with the running backs. To me, your quarterback is the complement to the running game. He's the guy that just breaks the defense's back when it's 3rd and 12 and you got everybody covered and the quarterback runs for a freaking first down. There is nothing more demoralizing to a defense
Yeah.
than
Guys,
that bullshit.
you drop into coverage and then he
Right.
takes
And
off.
then all of a
Let me
sudden,
be
bam,
let me
you
be
can-
Murphy's. Let me be the other side of this opinion though. I mean, we were talking to the Alabama coaches before the game, and the guy was saying that Milroe's the best athlete on the field. They have to play him at quarterback. He doesn't have the best arm. I thought the guy threw the ball pretty well. I don't know what you guys thought.
Oh, he's
But
way,
he's clearly a
way-
running threat.
Yeah, but he's way ahead of Riley Leonard as
Think
a
so?
thrower. Yeah.
Well, so I got to jump in on this. And Tim, you talked about it. And this is the problem with bringing in the hired gun. It takes more than a year. I mean, I see Riley Leonard more comfortable now at that quarterback position than he was in the A&M game. But it takes time at that quarterback position. And I think Notre Dame has said that, they're going to get away from bringing these guys in for these hired.
This will be the end of it. I mean, somebody, whether Steve Angeli takes over next year or Kenny Minchie or Angeli goes somewhere else, or Kenny Minchie and
How about the Carr kid?
CJ Carr is the guy that I mean, I'm not going to say he will definitely be the starting quarterback next year, but that kid's good, man. That
Yeah.
kid's
No, he
really
is
good.
good.
When you see the ball come off his hand on the
And he's a
practice
dude
field,
too. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So yeah,
He's the real
grow
deal.
your team. You especially at that position, grow your team organically, and then it sends a great message to those kids coming out of high school. That hey, I'm not going to spend 3 years at Notre Dame or 4 years at Notre Dame, and then only to be watch some other guy come in and be
Yeah.
the quarterback.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So
Timmy,
I mean,
go ahead.
I don't know. I don't think there are enough components on offense to win the rest of their games. And like in a normal, everybody, I know Notre Dame fans all hate Brian Kelly, and so I always hesitate to
I
bring
don't-
him up. But but the rap on Brian Kelly was all he does is beat the teams he should beat. He had 3 undefeated regular seasons in 12 years.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, I
Three.
think he's a good
Yeah.
football coach.
He won a lot of football games.
He
People
won a
don't
lot of
like
football
him, but
games.
the
Yeah,
guy
I didn't
won
see.
a
I
lot
didn't.
of
I
football
think
games.
I had Kelly delusion syndrome. Yeah, I didn't realize that they had
2012, 2018, and 2020. And I tell you, during that 2020 pandemic year, and credit to Jack Swarbrick as well, Notre Dame was better prepared. I can't account for the whole nation, but Notre Dame was so prepared for that season, going through the pandemic and all the restrictions and everything that went with it. And it's hard to even believe now that happened, but Notre Dame was ready for that season. They plowed through the regular season, and you want to talk about what? They were an actual member of the ACC that year.
Yeah.
And won the ACC, and then had to play Clemson in the ACC championship game after having beaten them during the regular season.
Is Notre Dame a member of the ACC?
They're
No.
not a member. They're an associate of. I mean, they are in basketball and everything else, but hockey and
Well,
football.
football. What's the relationship?
Well, it's all part of their agreement that they, the other
Independent.
Yeah, the other sport.
They have to
exactly.
play 4 or 5 ACC teams a year. I'm sure.
Yeah, five. I think 5 is the.
5 ACC.
Well,
teams.
why does Notre Dame agree to play 4 or 5 ACC teams? Why would they?
Well, because the ACC doesn't want the rest of Notre Dame sports if they don't get a guarantee from Notre Dame playing their teams 5 times a year.
Right. They
They want to derive the benefits.
all the other sports are benefiting from the ACC.
Yeah, that was I mean
At
that
Notre
was,
Dame.
Yeah, that was
Okay, I
huge
get
because
it.
the Big East fell apart, and Big East, basketball, Mike Brey was doing well in the Big East at that point, and they had to affiliate themselves because otherwise, I played baseball in Notre Dame. We're playing Minnesota State.
Yeah.
We're playing all these.
I got
I mean, we're playing all these.
Right. So
You know,
it doesn't have anything to do with Notre Dame qualifying for the playoffs or in the football playoffs or being part of a conference or anything like that.
No, I
Oh,
mean, only when, I mean, in 2020, when they were actually the ACC, man, you want to talk about, and Jack Swarbrick, the ACC was about ready to call it, we're not going to play. The Pac-12 did it, the Big Ten did it, and Jack Swarbrick played, and the ACC was ready to fold too. And Jack Swarbrick played a big role in saying, you know what, just be patient, ride it out, give it another couple weeks. And over that couple weeks, it just, it looked like, okay, COVID's diminishing a little bit. We got this thing under control a little bit better. Jack Swarbrick, oh my God, what he did for Notre Dame. And again, a lot of people don't like him because they don't like the Under Armour contract and they don't like, this and that about him. He could be a little bit aloof, using his own words, but he did an incredible job of navigating through some really difficult times when they had to, the Big East fell apart and they had to find a home, and ACC was where they wanted to be because they wanted the major markets along the East Coast. Academically, it was a better fit for him, et cetera, et cetera. He did a tremendous job.
It's also great for, think about lacrosse, basketball,
Yeah.
soccer.
Yeah. And, shoot, what was I going to say?
Baseball.
Yeah, baseball, although baseball is struggling playing against that level of competition.
Women's volleyball.
Volleyball,
Notre Dame's,
I
gymnastics.
always like going to those games.
I bet you did.
Jarts, they have some jarts competitions in the ACC that are pretty intense. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Yeah.
Stoney, who's the favorite to win the Jarts, the conference?
Well, it's funny you say that, Tim. This year, the Notre Dame team is sponsored by N88D.com. Go to N88D.com, get your Irish 88 t-shirts. Portion of all sales are going to the Notre Dame NIL fund and also Holtz's Heroes.
What kind of apparel, Mike? What kind of apparel is it?
It is sports apparel.
No, it's championship apparel.
Championship apparel.
Yeah, right.
We have a championship line. This is
Isn't there a 12 and 0 on the
Oh,
sleeve?
very nice. I'm gonna have to get my hands on one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Play like national champion. Yeah, not play like a champion, play like national champion.
Well, we
That's
play
the
like
standard.
national champions. We don't cut it in corners.
That's the standard.
I love it.
Then
man.
we want to save 43 years of your experience and then your time as a student there at Notre Dame for the next show. Will you come back on?
I'd do anything for you guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank
Well,
you.
I have a question real quick before we go, Tim. Now you've covered for 43 years. What era has been your favorite to cover? Can you break that down into a certain era, or is it impossible to do?
No, I think we can easily say from 1988 to 1993, a little bit after you guys, when they came close to playing for another national championship.
Should have.
64s, yeah, 64 wins in 6 seasons. Frankly, you guys and then the guys that followed you. I mean, you guys made my career. If you guys don't have the success you have, what am I? I'm covering a long lost Notre Dame football program that hasn't won a national title since 1977 when I was a senior in high school, getting ready to meet the Capper boys and
Nice.
when I got to
Akron,
Notre
Ohio.
Dame.
Yeah. St. Vincent, St. Mary. Well, good. Yeah. Any other questions, Mike?
No, that answered it up.
Oh,
He
that was
answered it
easy.
how
You
I
guys,
expected him to answer it.
yeah, you guys. I mean, it was different then. I was a little bit older than you, but I felt like we were contemporaries, and you guys were always so welcoming, with me. And like I said, it was the South Bend Tribune and Blue and Gold Illustrated, me and Lou Samoji, and that was it. So it was easy. We had access to your practices, and it was easier to get to know you guys. But you guys are awesome, and you're still awesome. And I appreciate the opportunity to remain on friendly terms with the three amigos, man. The three amigos.
All right, brother. We feel the same way about you.
We do.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, really,
Great. It's
Mhm.
always great. I could sit around and talk to you for a couple of more hours. I mean, it's great to reminisce, and you're knowledgeable. And I think we had a relationship like that when we were at school. So
We did. It was
glad
cool,
it's
man.
remained the way
It's
it
cool.
has.
I
Well,
appreciate it
wonderful.
so
Again,
much.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for being under the Golden Dome with Wes Pritchett, Michael Stonebreaker, Frank Stams, your host, talking Notre Dame football past and present from the perspective of that 88 last national championship football team. So, Tim, thank you very much. Best of luck going forward, and we will see you again on the next episode later on in the season. We'll recap all this and see if some of the predictions and that we made and some of the things that we talked about came true. So we look forward to it. Thank you again, Tim.
Thanks, guys. Later.
Peace out. Go Irish.
Go Irish.